Hi, so this is the second part of my Terminator review, and basically, in the first one I addressed, the Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, so, well, T2 Judgment Day. So now I'm gonna address Terminator 3, one of the most controversial of the franchise, just because it's not directed by James Cameron, and neither did it didn't follow like the same. It kind of did, but it broke away from the original franchise. It was more like a wannabe reboot that wasn't that great. So as for Terminator 3, a lot of people thought that this was the least winner of the franchise, and I'm no different. But the thing was that I felt that it was a pretty good action movie. It was a pretty good sequel, but it just didn't live it up to the original. I mean, it was like when it came down to the action, it wasn't that memorable. I felt that it relied too much on the CGI, as well as it tried to duplicate unsuccessfully what Terminator 2 had done. With the whole, it did go in a further direction. It wasn't a pretty good chapter in it, but from a franchise that big, expectations were too high. I mean, from 1991 all the way to 2003, a lot of expectations was built up, especially because it was the next Terminator. It was what now is the final one with Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator. So a lot of people were upset by it because it just did not deliver as well as people hoped. But then again, I went into watching this film without the same expectations of the first two, just because I knew it wasn't directed by James Cameron. So I did love that it was Terminator, but I felt that sometimes it poked fun at the franchise, which kind of got me upset because it felt like it didn't take the series seriously. So basically, my personal opinion about this, it was a pretty good action movie, something that I can tolerate and watch over and over again, but it's not definitely the best chapter in the franchise. So here comes, while I was watching the film, I came up with this question which I would like to propose, which was, if you was to do a sequel to Terminator 2, how would you do it? Seeing how the third one canceled out what the second one stood for, which was, there is no fate but what you make, which means that you do have a choice in what happens to your future, and no future is predestined. So if you was to continue it on, would you do what Terminator 3 did, which was cancel out the second one, which later led to the war? Because a lot of people wanted to see the war, and to me this was Terminator 3 was that uneasy going from transition from 2 to 4, because Salvation, I think everybody is expecting. I mean, everybody wants to see who wins that war, what happens when that war comes, how does John Connor become this character, how does he end up sending his father back. All this stuff, to me, it felt like the first one was like the ending of the story, but the beginning of the story would be Terminator Salvation, which even before this movie came out, I expected it to be that way, and I think a lot of people felt that way. Even though they loved that it was in present day, they wanted to see this war as well. That's why there was little hints and snips throughout the franchise. So now we finally get to see this. So as a fellow film goer and a lover of the franchise, I would like to pose this question. I would like to see the unique answers that people come up with to see of. Can they come up with a better story on how to get from 2 to 4? Because I know regardless, we was gonna end up at 4 anyway, which was talking about the war, and the only way you could do that is by doing a prequel. It's kind of like Star Wars, you have to go full circle. So I would like to see how they would bridge that gap, because to me Terminator 3 reminds me so much of Star Wars episode 1 and 2, like to lead up to that whole universal cycle. Like you have to go through the ugly to get to the good. So like what would your story be in order to get to that point? Would you respect the whole you have no say in this, or would you respect the whole it's all a choice, and no matter what, we can prevent this war? I can answer this question. I'm going to answer the question, and you guys can dispute me or whatever and say your own opinion. I would love to hear it. But me, I think it was smart to go and say that there was, no matter what, it was going to end up this way, because if you look at human nature, no matter how much one person can make a difference, there's still 10,000 other people that will make the same mistake. So I felt that regardless, we would end up in this future. But then with the whole timelines would it always end up in the same future, and is Terminator 3 really considered part of the timeline in which John Connor has went through 1 and 2 and now 3? Would you consider it as a different timeline, as well as Sarah Connor Chronicles? So do you consider this part of this timeline? Would you consider it part of another? Do you have an interesting idea on how the timelines do not split? All this stuff is very unique questions that I would like to ask about this, as well as I do want to address Terminator Salvation. I haven't seen it yet, but this is just like what I think about it from what I've seen. I've seen a lot of making of, and so far a lot of like clips and stuff like that. I'm actually really excited for this one, more than I was for Terminator 3. Just because I love Christian Bale, regardless of people who don't like him because of his performance in The Dark Knight. I loved it. I love Christian Bale since I was in high school, so he is a very great actor and one of the greatest young actors today that I believe. So I definitely want to see how his take on John Connor is going to be, especially because I think this is going to be the best one, of just because so far Furlong, I didn't like him, and then with the other guy I felt that he was too much of a wuss, that I felt that John Connor, even though he was kind of like a wuss, he was still hardcore in the first one more than in the third. So like in the second one he was able to do on his own. He was more righteous, where in the second one it felt like the other female that he was gonna end up marrying felt like, I understand that the franchise was built on a female protagonist as well as a female being the strong one, but I felt that John Connor should have embodied that strength that both his parents had in this film. So that's why I was kind of upset with Terminator 3. So now in the fourth one, I feel like he's gonna embody that. I feel like Christian Bale has a certain strength that it needs to be for John Connor, as well as to be not a messiah, but like somebody that people look up to. So I definitely want to see his take on it. I definitely like the story from what I heard so far, which was that it's a Terminator that doesn't know where he's from. Is he from the past? Is he from the future? How did he get here? Is he, destined to kill John Connor? All that stuff. So I'm definitely looking forward to it, but I'll do a review after I see it. So just come comment and tell me what you think about the question I proposed. So anyway, I'll talk to you later. Hasta vista, baby.